Life often teaches us lessons in unexpected ways. Sometimes we search for joy in the wrong places, expecting people, relationships, or circumstances to fill a void we haven't yet addressed within ourselves. As Alice Walker once said, "Don't wait around for other people to be happy for you. Any happiness you get, you've got to make yourself." This story explores what happens when we try to rely on someone else for fulfillment, and how a young man learns the hard truth about taking responsibility for his own joy. Ethan had always been a caring and thoughtful partner. He believed that relationships were meant to be giving and supportive, and he wanted to make his girlfriend, Laura, happy at all costs. He planned surprises, listened attentively, and sacrificed his own needs for hers, thinking that love meant making someone else's happiness his own responsibility. At first, things seemed perfect. Laura appreciated his gestures, and Ethan felt fulfilled, until the pattern slowly began to shift. Laura became increasingly critical, dismissive, and demanding. Small disagreements turned into arguments, and Ethan found himself constantly walking on eggshells, trying to manage her moods and expectations. Friends began to notice. "Are you happy?" they asked. Ethan would nod and smile, even when inside he felt exhausted, anxious, and hollow. He rationalized, "If I love her enough, if I try harder, if I make her smile, everything will work out." Months passed, and Ethan's internal life deteriorated. He stopped pursuing hobbies he once loved, isolated himself from friends, and began measuring his self-worth based on Laura's approval. Yet no matter how much he gave, her dissatisfaction remained. Happiness, he realized painfully, could not be bought or imposed. It could not be outsourced. One evening, after a particularly tense argument, Ethan sat alone in his apartment, staring at a painting he had once loved but had stopped noticing. He felt the weight of his own unhappiness. The truth hit him. He had been relying on Laura to give him joy because he hadn't learned to cultivate it for himself. Over the next weeks, Ethan began small but deliberate changes. He reconnected with old passions: painting, cycling, reading. He set boundaries, saying no when he needed space, and started journaling his thoughts and feelings. For the first time in months, he felt a spark of joy that belonged solely to him. When he eventually ended the relationship, it wasn't out of anger or resentment, but clarity. He had learned that a healthy relationship cannot carry the weight of someone else's happiness. Love is meant to enhance joy, not supply it. By cultivating his own emotional well-being, Ethan realized he could enter future relationships from a place of abundance rather than need. Months later, Ethan reflected on his journey. He discovered that happiness is like a flame. You must light it yourself, nurture it, and carry it wherever you go. Others can join in the warmth, but they cannot start the fire for you. Ethan's journey reminds us of a profound truth. Happiness cannot be handed to us by someone else. Too often in relationships, or in life in general, we look outward for fulfillment, expecting partners, friends, or circumstances to provide what we haven't yet learned to cultivate inside ourselves. But joy is not something that can be borrowed, purchased, or demanded. It must be created, nurtured, and owned. Think about it. When we rely on others for happiness, we place our sense of self-worth, our emotional stability, and even our identity in someone else's hands. It's a fragile arrangement. Their moods, actions, or approval begin to dictate how we feel, and suddenly our peace depends on forces outside our control. When those external sources fail to deliver, the emptiness is inevitable, and it can feel personal, even though the truth is simply that we were expecting the wrong thing from the wrong place. Ethan's story highlights another essential lesson. Relationships amplify who we already are inside. If we enter them with unresolved fears, self-doubt, or unmet needs, we may unintentionally outsource our happiness to the other person, hoping they can fill the void. This is not a moral failing. It's human. Yet it's also a wake-up call. True joy begins with self-awareness, self-respect, and consistent action to meet our own emotional needs. Only when we can stand in our own light can we share it without asking others to hold it for us. The practical lessons are clear. Cultivating happiness means learning to recognize what we need, and then taking intentional steps to provide it for ourselves. For Ethan, it started with small actions: reclaiming hobbies, setting boundaries, journaling, reconnecting with supportive friends, and investing in moments that brought him peace. Each of these choices was a seed of self-responsibility, a deliberate act of saying, I am worthy of joy, and I will not wait for someone else to grant it to me. And this is where the reflection becomes even deeper. By taking ownership of our happiness, we also transform the way we engage in relationships. When we bring a sense of wholeness into a partnership, we can truly share joy, support, and love without placing impossible expectations on the other person. We can give without losing ourselves, and we can receive without relying on dependency. Relationships then become spaces of mutual growth and genuine connection, rather than mirrors of insecurity. Perhaps most importantly, Ethan's story reminds us that the journey towards self-created happiness is not a straight line. There will be setbacks, doubts, and moments where the old habits of relying on others resurface. But each choice we make to prioritize our emotional health, to nurture ourselves, and to protect our inner light builds resilience. Over time, those small, intentional actions accumulate, shaping a life where joy is not contingent on external validation, but arises naturally from within. In the end, the story is not just about leaving a relationship that wasn't fulfilling. It's about learning to stand in your own light. It's about understanding that the source of happiness is not someone else's affection, approval, or attention. It is your courage, your boundaries, your passions, and your deliberate choices. Happiness is an inside job, and once we embrace that, every decision we make, every relationship we enter, and every challenge we face can be approached from a place of empowerment, not dependence. The ultimate lesson: you cannot outsource happiness. You can cultivate it, protect it, and share it, but it must start with you. When you do, not only does your own life flourish, but you also create the foundation for healthier, more authentic, and more joyful relationships. If Ethan's story resonated with you, take a moment today to reflect. Where in your life are you looking for happiness from someone else, and what small steps can you take to cultivate it within yourself? Happiness is an inside job. Every boundary you set, every moment you spend on a passion, every choice to nurture yourself is a seed of lasting joy. Share one small action you'll take today in the comments. It might inspire someone else to start tending their own inner light. Subscribe and join our community for more stories about personal growth, resilience, and discovering the power of happiness from within. Your journey to self-created joy starts here.